It's 2023 and comics are booming, especially when we look at the all-star lineup of series that Marvel has headed our way. Welcome back, Nerd Squad. It's me, Amanda, and today we are talking Marvel Comics, one of my favorite things to talk about. There are so many characters who for a while I have been dreaming of seeing in a solo series that are finally getting the spotlight turned on them. Yes! And I personally cannot wait to see what the marvelous creative teams working on these anticipated series cook up for us. Number 10. Miles Morales Spider-Man. Miles Morales' new series as Spider-Man is already being hyped by fans. Now, it's only got 2 issues out thus far, but fans are already loving Cody Ziglar and Federico Vincentini's take on the character. Some are even saying this is some of the best work, if not the best work, that Vincentini has ever done. I personally love Miles as a character, and I was honestly sad to see his last run by Saladin Ahmed come to a close, but hearing all the buzz around the newest series now just makes me really excited to see what this next chapter holds for Miles in both his personal life and his crime fighting career. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love all things Spider-Man, Miles, Peter, Ben, all the Spider people, folks, Jessica Drew, there's a lot of Spider-Man stuff. Be sure to check out our Spider-Man playlist, where we have all of the good Spidey content for you. Number 9. Captain Marvel. This is a series I have been wanting to read for some time, and it's only been bolstered by the fact that I've only really heard great things about the comic and the fact that it's gone on for so long, which is usually a good indicator in terms of when you're deciding whether or not you should buy a comic or get into it. If it's got a long run, it usually means other people are buying it and loving it, so that's a good sign. The other thing I will say is anytime I have popped into this comic, because I have read a little bit of it here and there, bits of issues, I've loved everything I've read, so yeah. Captain Marvel follows the journey of Carol Danvers, both in space and on Earth. It is written by Kelly Thompson, who I also will say I generally love everything that she writes, and has gone on for 45 issues thus far, with solicitations actually taking it till at least issue number 48, and I believe we can go till at least issue 50 with this one. I mean, 100 issues though of Captain Marvel would also be insane. So if we could do that, I'd be here for that. I love Carol, so. Number 8. Star Wars Yoda. Star Wars Yoda is a comic that I would heavily recommend people read. I just finished the first story arc myself with issue number 3, that sort of arc comes to a close, and I loved it. I'm not sure if Yoda has ever had a comic before, but based on what I know, he hasn't. Kinda tried to look into it a bit and I couldn't find anything. Granted, I'm not as immersed in the world of Star Wars comics as I would like to be, so I could be wrong about that. However, I have wanted to get more into Star Wars comics for some time, and so far this has proven to be a series that I would recommend as a good and semi-familiar place to start for those of you that also wanna jump into something. We all know Yoda, but what we don't know is about all the insane adventures he's gone on during his life, which is what this series dives into as Yoda reminisces on his past while living on Dagobah, waiting for Luke to one day arrive. Star Wars Yoda is by Cavan Scott, with art by Nico Leone. Also, I know Marvel is not the only one to have ever done Star Wars comics, so if there are any Yoda comic series that existed prior to this one, please let me and all of us know in the comments, because I would love to check them out if they do exist and I somehow missed them in my research. Number 7. Wasp. This is a character I've been talking about for a while in regards to wondering where her main series was at. I mean, Wasp has had series, but a lot of them tend to be team-up series with, you know, Ant-Man. Or just, where is Wasp in general, I guess I should say. I feel like we haven't seen Jan for some time in the comics, and it's weird, especially considering that, you know, she was once, for a long while, a core member, and of course, one of the founding members of the Avengers team. In fact, Jan even led the Avengers for some time as well. The last I spotted Jan was in the current She-Hulk series, and even there, she was just making a cameo. I remember when she showed up, I was like, wait, where has Jen been? Huh? She also doesn't have a team up with Jen or anything. She's just helping Jennifer out with finding an apartment while Jen focuses on landing back on her feet and getting her own place. Also, how is Jen and Jan not a team up series that has happened yet? Or has it happened and I somehow missed it? Cause that kinda sounds like a great idea for a team up series. Wasp, however, is finally back in a series where she also gets to team up with the inheritor of her mantle, long lost daughter of Hank Pym, aka Ant-Man, Nadia. I also believe this is Janet Van Dyne's first ever solo series? Which is wild to me, although even here, she's sharing the series with Nadia, so there is that. Wasp not only has amazing covers from Tom Riley, but also is written by Out of This World writer Al Ewing, with art by Kate Niemczyk. The only sad news here is that it's only a 4-part miniseries. And who knows, it could always lead to a longer running series, or it could get an extension and become a longer running series, so fingers crossed. Number 6, Venom. Venom is so wonderfully weird right now, and I mean that in like the best way possible. It's gotten really elevated in terms of the, I would say, existential crises that Eddie Brock and even Dylan Brock seem to be experiencing. If you are a Venom fan, if you have been following along with the King in Black event, the Absolute Carnage event, and Donny Cates' run on Venom, then this series really is for you. It continues along that path with, I would say, pretty great reverence, I think, for what has come before, but it also offers us a glimpse at something weirdly dark and different through the eyes of writers Al Ewing and Ram V, who both offer their own takes on the two characters that we have come to know as Venom, both Eddie and now his son, Dylan. Number 5, Immortal X-Men. Immortal X-Men is one of those series that you need to read it, especially if you want to be truly in touch with all the wild stuff that is happening with the X-Men right now. Truthfully, my first draft in terms of my picks for this list were pretty much all X books, probably no surprise to anybody. Like 70% of what my initial picks were for this list, prior to me tweaking it, were just straight up just X books. But after removing a few to give you a more balanced list in terms of recommendations, Immortal X-Men was one that I simply had to keep on here because, I mean, it's just that good. Now, this isn't even one of the books that I personally have been following along with issue to issue. It's not on my personal pull list. My partner is reading it, but has been keeping me informed, and I do pop in every now and then on an issue, and honestly, every time I do pop into it, I am in love with what I read. It is so good. Kieran Gillen and Lucas Wernick are both crushing it on Immortal X-Men, and these covers by Mark Brooks are jaw-dropping. Read it, or else miss out on all this mutant magic that's so good. Not actual magic, but you know, just like chef's kiss magic. Number 4, She-Hulk. What can I say? I made a promise to keep only one comic between Marvel and DC on my pull list for this year, as I attempt to focus more on collecting and supporting indie comics, part of a New Year's resolution of mine, and She-Hulk was almost the one that I simply had to keep. It was a really hard decision for me to not keep this comic on my pull list because I love it so much. It really feels like a return to the classic She-Hulk many of us first fell in love with in the comics. She's sassy, she's playful, she's fun-loving, hardworking, and she can also easily kick your butt. Like, this is my favorite version of She-Hulk. It's so good. She-Hulk came out swinging with writing by Rainbow Rowell and extremely consistent artwork from various talented artists throughout, and reminds me once more why I love the Jade Giantess. And even though I'm not reading it physically right now, you can bet I'm going to be continuing to read it digitally because it is super good and it deserves my support. And you should join me in reading in whichever format you prefer as well. Just trust me. Number 3, Fantastic Four. I mean, when they said that Ryan North was going to be doing FF, I had to start reading and collecting it. I love Ryan North, also, woo, other Canadian. Alas, because of my current commitment to really focusing on only collecting indie comics this year, as one of my New Year's resolutions as I was saying earlier, I'm not collecting this one physically anymore. But I'm still planning to read along digitally, and based on the tone I got in the first issue, I know this is going to be a great run. Although it does hurt me to not grab those stunning covers by Alex Ross off the shelves. And not just on the covers, the inside art by Ivan Coelho and design elements by Carlos Lau are also phenomenal. I think to really get a sense for this series, I'll simply share some of Ryan North's thoughts on the FF, which he writes about on the final page of his issue number 1. There were 4 guiding lights I had in mind for the Fantastic Four, and I put them at the top of the very first document I sent our fearless editor Tom Brevoort. They went a little something like this. Number 1, the Fantastic Four are fun. These are people who know they can help people and are here to do exactly that. No angst, having superpowers rules. Number 2, the Fantastic Four are adventurers. Exploring the unexplored is fun and gratifying. The unknown and the impossible are crazy interesting. Number 3, the Fantastic Four can do anything. If we want to recapture the feeling of the FF as they were in the 60s where anything could happen, we have to let what's come before be there to inspire stories but not limit them. Number 4, the Fantastic Four are accessible. This is a comic for people who've read every Fantastic Four appearance since 1961, but it's also one that welcomes people who have never read a single Fantastic Four comic before, or even a single Marvel Marvel comic. We have deep cut references to what's come before, but you won't feel left out if you don't know it, because this is a comic for everyone. Number 2. Sins of Sinister. Sins of Sinister is an event I have been eager to witness since almost the birth of Krakoa. Man, I'm gonna miss Krakoa when it's gone. Oof. Ever since Sinister was plotting on gathering all the samples of mutant DNA that he most wanted, I've been eager to see what master plan he has in store. While in Hellions his chimera was born, revealed, and sadly destroyed, now he's going even bigger with his ambitions. Not just trying to create something that is extremely powerful, but actually trying to harness others' powers in order to bend reality to his very will, which I gotta say is pretty wild. Sins of Sinister is an event with multiple tie-ins for you to check out and enjoy, but it also has its own self-titled issue as well, and a follow-up denouement series, Sins of Sinister, and a follow-up denouement issue, Sins of Sinister Dominion. The event is written by Kieran Gillen, who, as I already mentioned, is killing it on Immortal X-Men right now. Also, this event is massive when it comes to art, with so many artists involved, including David Baldion, Federico Vincentini, Joshua Cassara, and Stefano Caselli, among others. Number 1. Demon Wars. Demon Wars comes to us from writer and artist Peach Momoko with translation and contributions by Zach Davison. Peach Momoko is one of Marvel's Stormbreakers, younger artists and creatives that Marvel seeks to showcase and promote throughout their comics. For those of you who haven't checked it out, Demon Days was the previous series that Momoko did, which I honestly also fell in love with, and which precedes this. Also, Momoko's art is like some of the best art I think ever. It's so good. While I would recommend reading Demon Days prior to reading Demon Wars, I would also say that you could probably read Demon Wars without it if you really wanted to, and you would still enjoy and appreciate the story that Momoko and Davison are telling us here. The coolest thing about the Demon books, though, is that it is set in its own alternate universe of Peach's creation. To give us this beautiful and mysterious world, Momoko has taken inspiration from Japanese folklore and blended it together with the superpowered beings and stories, mutants especially, of Marvel's universe. While Demon Wars started in late 2022, it will likely wrap earlier this year in 2023. Although honestly I want it to go on forever. It takes a while in between issues though, so you gotta be a bit patient, but it's worth it. There are so many more comics that I am excited about when it comes to Marvel and what they're putting out this year, so please do let us know in the comments if you want a part 2 or beyond. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay nerdy, YouTube. Bye!